There's a storm out on the ocean, and it's moving, come on, this away. If your soul's not anchored in Jesus, you will surely drift away. There's a storm out on the ocean, and it's moving.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's me, Jermaine. In a couple days, actually today is May 3rd, on tomorrow, wow, it seems like this time period is just going so fast. On tomorrow marks May 4th. May 4th is not only my birthday, which is really less important, but the most important thing is that is the death date, the passing date of my beloved grandmother Ethel Ladd. And I want to take a moment to remember her. And one of the greatest things that I remember about my grandmother was the fact that she was just, to me, she was such a pleasant, a nice soul, a gracious woman. And I always felt safe and protected around her. That's why I always cling to her. As many of my own family members will tell you, that we had a special bond, a special relationship, and one that clearly supersedes even this life, as she died on my birthday. So in essence, I could never forget my grandmother. She will always be with me. And it's been well over 10 years since she has passed, but I have never forgot her. I've never forgot the way that she cooks. I never forgot her hugs. I never forgot the way that she hums melodies. It's simply beautiful. And even in my dreams, I still see my beloved grandmother. I believe last year, or was it the year before? I can't recall, but I remember having ice cream in a dream with my grandmother, and it was the night before my birthday. So I wanted to take that particular time and moment to share that intimate moment with you all on that. And for many of you who are my family members, definitely take a moment on tomorrow to reflect back and cherish some of those memories that she has with you. I want to take us out today to the Sea of Tiberias. And for many of you that don't know, the Sea of Tiberias, are not really biblical scholars per se, you know that Jesus performed miracles on the sea, like walking on the water. And so that's where we're going to today. We're going out to the Sea of Tiberias to walk upon the water, to relive the experience of Peter and Jesus. Let me talk about the Sea of Tiberias for a minute. It's vast, it's huge. It's so wide and so massive that you can barely see from one side to the other. It is simply humongous. When I was in Israel looking at it, gave me a sense of awe, reflecting back on what it must have been like to see Yeshua performing miracles on it. If I could go back in time to relive any one of the disciples' experiences, it would be that of Peter. The story goes that after feeding 5,000, Jesus goes up and he sends the disciples out on a boat while he begins to pray on top of a mountain. So the disciples, they get into the boat and they begin to drift off deep into the sea. And from the story, they were on the sea throughout the night. Early in the morning, Yeshua is walking on the water towards them, but they don't realize that it's him. And they become terrified, thinking that it's a ghost. So Christ says, take heart, do not be afraid. It's I. Peter is my favorite disciple because Peter initiates his faith. You see, it was Peter who says, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you and to walk on the water. Now think about that. Let that meat marinate right there for a minute. Someone is walking on water. They are terrified. It is Jesus. And Jesus says to his disciples, do not be afraid, for it is I. And then Peter asked Jesus if he could walk on the water. My, what remarkable faith we have here. So the story goes on, and Peter begins to walk on the water. I can only imagine Peter thinking to himself, am I really doing this? However, trouble begins to set in when he takes his focus off of Jesus and notices the environment of the strong wind. His faith turns into panic, and panic into fear, and he begins to sink, and he then cries out, Lord, save me. Jesus immediately reached out his hand and caught him, saying to him, you of little faith, why did you doubt? You of little faith, why did you doubt? I would like to pitch my tent for the purpose of this message at that question. You of little faith, why did you doubt? In the story, we have Jesus, we have the water, we have Peter and the wind. Substitute Peter's name for your name. Now imagine yourself walking out on the water towards Christ. How? Walking on the water with focus on Jesus required a measure of faith. And to take that step, you first had to receive Jesus and accept him as Messiah, as Lord and Savior. That's how your faith is initiated. From that day, we begin our journey with Yeshua. After believing on him is when we began to walk on the water. And day after day, we take step after step, and we get a little closer and a little closer and a little closer, and our faith begins to grow. It's a really exciting and amazing time, and actually to witness, to see how far you've come from the boat, walking towards Christ on the water. However, a strong wind comes by. What is that strong wind? Unemployment, corona, relationship breakup, a new transition, loneliness. What changed from this story of Jesus walking on this water? Who was it? Jesus that changed? No. From the story, remind you, Jesus remains standing on the water. Clearly, Jesus is not sinking, but he has his eyes fixed on Peter. Who was it then? What else could have changed? Was it the water? No. It appears that the water remains in where it's always been, in place. Could it perhaps been the wind? No, it wasn't the wind, because the text says the wind was already blowing, even as the disciples set out for sail. You see, it is clearly Peter. It is Peter who changed. It was Peter who took his eyes off of Yeshua and noticed the heavy wind. And therefore, Peter began to sink. If I could have been Peter's consciousness in that moment, I could have told self, hey, stay focused. Keep your eyes fixed on Christ. Today, I'm here to tell you the very same thing as you continue to walk on your journey. And even as you may feel that you're sinking, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus. So far from this corona, 65,000 people have died. The economy is turning into a great recession, but also a great depression. Jobs are depleting. Small businesses are struggling. Everyday creditors remain persistent in collecting what is due to them. It does seem like the world around us is sinking. I would say that it's more so a sinking from uncertainty, not knowing whether or when the shelter in place will be over, or not knowing when we'll be able to have life back to what it was before, where we had the freedom to go anywhere as we please, seeing family, friends, and loved ones, and hugging one another. Yes, you see, this uncertainty is like the strong wind in the text. Could you blame Peter for noticing the strong wind, the environment around him? Just like much of us. He noticed, we noticed. And you know what? or we begin to sink. But Peter had the right response when he says, Lord, save me. Repeat after me, Lord, save me. Because that's the right response. Of course, we're all human and we all suffer in some sort of a way. And especially during this time of Corona, whether in one way or not. I had a friend the other day who told me that he attempted to commit suicide. I had no idea. But by the grace of God, he's still amongst the living. Even if you may not have the courage or know to say, Lord, save me, trust and believe that God has his eyes fixed on you. And from the water, he's reaching out. Standing on the water, he's reaching out to save you and to save you out from drowning. So take cheer, for the Lord is near. I want you to know something. It's okay to be human. I mean, the best of us have some dark days, but Christ makes up the difference. It was not Peter. Was it not Peter who got out of the boat? Was it not Peter who initiated his faith while the other disciples remained in the boat? That counts. You've walked on water, and now Christ has to hold you up when you're sinking. Christ is the source of life, and he can bring very life into your dry bones, into your dead situation. He can bring joy in the midst of depression. He can bring contentment in the midst of change. You will live again to keep walking towards God. But get this, no matter what happens in the next few days with this corona, and certainly there are thousands more that are statistically supposed to die. But no matter what, keep your eyes fixed on God. And I trust and believe that he will lift you up again. You will live another day and you'll keep walking towards God on the water. I'm reminded of the text from Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2. Let us fix our eyes upon Jesus, the author and the perfecter of our faith, who set before him the cross, the joy, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you may not grow weary and lose heart. Lord, cry out unto him, Lord, save me. God bless you. I'll see you next week.